guys? Welcome back to another edition of The Puncher's Point with yours truly, Breezy and Mario. We are coming off the Deontay Wilder versus the Zhilei Zhang fight. Wilder gets KO'd in the fifth round. And let's not mention that Queensberry did a nice 10-0 sweep on Matchroom Boxing. My goodness, a 10-0 sweep. Now, here's the thing. The crazy thing about it is, just spoke to Mario about this. Like, the way we actually had this fight going wasn't even necessarily wrong or incorrect. It's just the other guy won. Now, I know that a lot of people are already gonna say it's time for Wilder to hang it up. And at this point, that's more than likely the best thing to do. I feel like Wilder has. First of all, let me go ahead and say, congrats to Zhilei Zhang, for going in there. First of all, that power ain't no joke. I saw the replay. He grazed Wilder's nose and made Wilder spin all the way back just so he could come up with a hook and put the finishing touch on Wilder. That is some crazy power. But nevertheless, look, y'all obviously know me and Mario. We are Team Wilder. Y'all know we Team Bomber Squad, so we are obviously, I know that, we like Wilder and we're big fans of Wilder, but I gotta keep it real. Wilder, I feel like Wilder, you done enough in the sport of boxing. Just enjoy the fruit of the labors, spend time with your family, just we appreciate everything you've done. But I'm telling y'all right now, man, like it hurt. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. It hurt watching him hit that canvas. Like it's like a stinging pain. It's like, dang, not my guy Wilder. So I don't want nobody to try to make it seem like, oh, this is officially the switch up on Deontay. No, we're not switching up on Deontay Wilder. We still rock with Wilder. We just think that, he's done enough in the sport and you can finally hang it up. You can finally say, I did what I could. I did what I could with the time I have. Now it's time to hang it up. But much respect to Wilder, much respect to Zhilei Zhang. I'd like to pass it over to you, Mario. What's your thoughts on this fight?
Say anything, I just want to say congratulations to Zhilei Zhang on a very impressive fifth round KO. Congratulations to Queensberry Boxing. It looked like Matchroom had to win on paper. Ray Ford, Deontay Wilder, Hergovich. It looked like they really had to win. And Queensberry just came in there and said, you guys are not going to get a single point on us. We're going to make sure that no matter what it takes, Queensberry's going to sweep. And Frank Warren, that man was really happy. He was jumping around like it was Christmas, like he was a little kid at Launch Trampoline Park. That guy was smiling. I don't think I've ever really seen Frank Warren smile like that before. Eddie Hearn, shout out to Eddie Hearn. He was a great sport about it. He didn't make no excuses. He didn't act like a baby. He took his loss on the chin. He had some fun. He said it was a great card, and I'm glad that they both had fun. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna get to my opinions on Wilder later on in the fight. However, you know what we got to do? We got to grade this fight. You know what I'm saying? Like just like every other fight, we got to grade it. And this is going to be a painful thing for us to do, but we're going to get it done. Let's start with game plan. I'm going to change the name from game plan to strategy because that's basically what it is. And again, this is the grade of the combined strategy between both fighters. So here's what I will say. As far as Zhang, he had a decent strategy. I had him up 4 rounds to nothing. I had the fifth round going to Wilder before he got knocked out. What I liked that Zhilei Zhang did was, again, he applied the pressure. He made sure that he didn't allow Deontay Wilder's range to be a factor in this fight. He said, you know what, I'm gonna go in, and whenever Wilder leans on those ropes, I'm gonna hit him. Now, at first, I thought Deontay Wilder was playing rope a dope with him because it just seemed like Wilder kept leaning up against those ropes to try to tire him out. Which, if that was the plan, it's not a bad plan. However, Zhilei Zhang's power, again, it's no joke. We've talked about it. That hook can knock out anybody. And obviously, Exhibit A, we've seen that. However, I do feel like Zhilei Zhang did a great job of basically coming forward, getting on the inside, and making it known that if we're going to fight on the inside, it's going to be my fight. I think he did a good job of going to the body a little bit too. He was kind of mixing up those punches as well. What I wish he did a better job of, again, was kind of like moving his head. Again, we always talked about how his defense wasn't always the best, but his offense was always there to deliver. He's a really good counter puncher. And again, we said that he could beat Deontay Wilder with those counter punches, which he did. So overall, I mean, an individual grade, I got to give Zhilei Zhang an 8. As far as Deontay Wilder, I'm gonna be honest with you, his that game plan's got to be like a 5, and I'm being generous, man. You know, he did not do what we were asking him to do in the fifth round. It looked like he was about to do. He clipped Zhang a few times. It looked like he let his hands go, but at the same time, I mean, you said it better than anybody, Breezy. You got to let your hands go. We talked about how he should give Zhang little to no space. We talked about when he has a guy rocked, he sprints at them, he gives them no room to recover, and he knocks them out. He didn't do that this time. We talked about how he needed to kind of create some new combinations instead of the same old 1-2 punch. He tried it. He kept doing it. Sometimes he would land it and other times he wouldn't, but he kept trying that combination. And that's what got him knocked out. There's only so many times you could throw the same combination to where a fighter knows what you're going to do and he's going to counter and basically end your night. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm being generous. Wilder's strategy, I got to give it a 5, man. So overall, when you really look at it, I got to give that strategy from both of them. I got to give it like a 6.5, man. That's honestly the strategy I have for both of them. Probably a 6.5. That's what I'm gonna stick with. But you know what, Breezy? I'm gonna pass it on to you. Let me get your overall grade from both fighters as far as strategy, and then after you give the individual grade, a combined grade.
I give Zhang about a 7. The fact that he was able, he kind of did what Joseph Parker did, but instead his was a bit more pressuring, and his was a bit more of an uncomfortable style with the accumulation of punches he was trying to put on, and with the combinations and the mixture of punches he was trying to do. See, this is why I said before. I don't know if I said it in the video or I said it off, personal on the phone with you, but I said that when too much pressure comes in the pipes begin to bust. Now, we all know Wilder has a bit of a counter punching type skills, but it just seems like when he feels that power and he knows what kind of power you possess, what kind of power you bring, it's kind of reluctant, and you could tell the punch resistance wasn't really necessary there. But as far as uh Jang, I give him about a 7. Wilder, I'll say this. I will say this. I like the fact that he attempted to let his hands go, but to your point, which you are correct, when he usually gets fighters hurts, he's on that like white on rice. And even at times when he kind of clipped Jang and whatnot, I was just kind of being there in the stationary patient. And I get the whole being there patient and whatnot. But I felt like just another more right hand after those couple of right hands he delivered to Jang, the story be just a little bit different. So I give that about 5. Yeah, 5. So, overall, just just looking at the performance itself, not even adding, but just looking at the overall performance, I it, I don't rank it high at all. And if you asking me for a number, I mean, I lowest like I 12 if you about 12 or 13 if you add it, but just strictly about just as a whole together individual grade. God, I give it about what 6. It's just and I get it. It's the heavyweight division, power punchers. When you hit hard, you gotta be a little bit more patient, a little bit more cautious with those power punchers. But and like I said, I will say this: Wilder did attempt to let his hands go. I did like how when Jane tried to catch him up against that ropes and whatnot, Wilder would turn around. But at the same time, though, we saw what happened when he turned around when Jane clicked him on the nose. Which, by the way, Jang barely even touched him. It was a clean, little glaze. And after that, Wilder turned around and there go Jang. And I'm like, so overall, performance really was. But I say this, he did look better than he did in the Parker fight. I will say that though.
Let's get to excitement, okay? If you're really looking at the fight as a overall whole, it was okay. You know, it wasn't anything great. It did not live up to the expectations that we thought it was going to live up to. We knew, we said it. Go back and look at it. Even though we picked the wrong guy, this fight was not going past 5 rounds. What round did it end in, Breezy? 5. Again, we knew what we were talking about, but I think the fight was okay. I don't think it lived up to what we thought it was. We thought it was going to be two guys who were going to hurt each other within 5. They were going to be guys who were just going to give each other their best power, and whichever one came on top came on top. Again, the whole title of this that Zhang and Wilder called it was Chinese power versus Alabama power. In this specific case, Chinese power won. So when you really look at it, if we're talking about what we expected versus what we got, I mean, the fight was okay. The ending was pretty exciting, which might bump it up a little bit. But as far as the overall fight in itself, Breezy, I give it another 6.5. I'd give it lower if it didn't end in the knockout that it did. That would look, say what you want. Obviously, we are Wilder fans, but we can look at that and say that was a good knockout. We can look at that and say that was an exciting finish to a boxing fight. It's not the finish that we wanted, obviously, but it was an exciting finish to a boxing fight. But besides that, if you go back and you really go look at that fight, I mean, all it really was from the majority of the fight was Zhilei Zhang rocking Wilder. Wilder had his moments in the fifth and he got knocked out. So as far as excitement, Breezy, I got to give it a 6.5. You might disagree with me, but let's hear it.
The overall excitement for the fight, I gave it like before the fight hand, I gave it a 9. I mean, because if you think about it, these are two guys who you could argue that on the back end of their career, and then both of these guys got power, and if one of these guys loses, almost the end of the road for them. So it's like it has that element of thing to it. If this guy loses, he's basically done. If this guy wins, still has a chance. And then you got two heavyweight punchers. So this not like no typical flyweight, bantamweight, lightweight type matchup. This is a heavyweight matchup where both guys have power. So the excitement was there. I think what really went was a lot of people, obviously a lot of us, we like Wilder. We like what Wilder stands for. We like what he's done in the sport of boxing. I think when Wilder got knocked out, it's just kind of like, the excitement went down because, that's not what we was expecting. We was expecting this, reinvented Deontay Wilder, the old fashioned Deontay Wilder that's, he's in there, he's swinging, and he's coming to take somebody's head off. And I think beforehand, the fight was 9 as far as excitement. It was still exciting KO. I just think as far as Wilder losing, I think it dropped down to a huge 5 or 4 because that's just not what people was looking for, expecting. And I felt like a lot of people felt like that, Wilder should not turn his head, which we can clearly say, like, but how do I know that he didn't do that? And that was just strictly that Chinese power doing that to him and whatnot. So as far as the beforehand, I give it a 9, but as far as the post fight, 4.
And even if Zhang won, I would again, and I know Breezy's looking at this through a Wilder fan standpoint. I understand that. What I'm looking at it as, no, look, because Breezy said because Wilder didn't win, it wasn't as exciting because we didn't expect that. What I'm saying is this: regardless of whether Wilder won or lost, those first 5 rounds is not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting Zhang to go up 4 rounds to nothing or 3 rounds to 1. I was expecting this to be a close fight for the first 4 or 5 rounds. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. I expected, in his case, this is what I took out of it. Obviously, as Wilder fans, we're expecting the reinvented Deontay Wilder. That didn't happen. Okay. So I understand him in that point. We expected the reinvented Deontay Wilder to come in and be that bronze bomber and give us an exciting fight. And to that point, I agree with him. I believe that's what he's trying to say. We expected Deontay Wilder to go back to his old self and give an exciting fight. What I expected was that, but also Zhang to go in there and give an exciting fight as well. And I don't think either guy did that. So I'm going to stick with a 6.5. He said 4. I honestly do think that whichever way you look at it, it's fair, but this excitement doesn't go past the 7. It's not a set. It doesn't go past the 7. I like the grade. I like 6.5, I guess 6. He's around a lot lower. And again, even if Zhang won, if it happened in more exciting fashion, kind of like Fury versus Wilder 3 or something like that, or if Wilder won, same thing. That's what we're expecting. We're expecting 2 guys to go in there and scrap and bang and show that they're warriors. We didn't really get that from neither one of them. So I agree. And I know Breezy's dying to defend himself right here. So I'm gonna let him defend himself real quick before we get to Impact.
No, all I was just saying is like I looked at it from like not just like a standpoint of me, but also from others because I was gauging out what was being said on like video streams and also comments and whatnot. So it wasn't even necessarily nothing to do with me, just like in Wilder. It was more so a situation like I was gauging like how others was reacted to it. Like people was like, man, this is really it for Wilder. Like, man, it's over with. Like, man, like, you know, we ain't gonna really see Wilder get that. and we ain't gonna see Wilder and Joshua. So that's how I was kind of gauging it and looking at it from that kind of standpoint. Not nothing to look at it as like a fanboy perspective, but more so of a okay, this is how others feel too.
That's fair. That's fair. You know, a lot of us were expecting old-fashioned Deontay Wilder to come back, let his hands go, and like he said, this might be if I don't win, I might retire, and there's a strong chance I would. And we expected him to go in there and give it everything he's got, and I don't think we saw that. Let's go to Impact. How does this impact the boxing as a whole, heavyweight division? Now, on Wilder's side, you know, you got one of the most powerful punchers we've seen in a very, very long time, probably retiring. Again, that hasn't been the official final statement from Deontay Wilder. And on the other side, we got Zhilei Zhang, who at over 40 years old is slowly creeping into the heavyweight title picture. Like he said, he wants the road to the champ. And that could be a rematch with Joseph Parker. That could be him having a rematch with Anthony Joshua, who he fought at the Olympics when Anthony Joshua won the gold medal. It could be him versus Dubois. Again, Dubois had a very impressive win as well. There's a lot of potential fights that we can make for Zhilei Zhang. I'm gonna say this: the impact for at least the heavyweight division, I'm gonna give the grade a 7 because we're talking about the biggest power puncher possibly leaving the sport, and we're talking about Zhilei Zhang, who's over 40 years old, possibly getting the road to the heavyweight crown. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but you never know in the sport of boxing. You never know if he becomes a mandatory for somebody and Usyk has to fight him and he could shock the world. You never know, man. So I'm going to give it a 7. You know, I think there's some bright things for Zhilei Zhang. And look, if this is the last we've seen of Deontay Wilder, you mentioned it earlier in the podcast. He's done a great job in the sport of boxing. I want people to realize that Deontay Wilder's main goal in the sport of boxing when he started was not to be a heavyweight champion. It was to provide for his daughter, which he has done, and he has exceeded those expectations that and that goal that he has had for himself. The man can sit down at home, retire, and say he is a former heavyweight champion. Not many people can say they got to do that. This man can sit down and say that my knockout ratio was above 90%. He could sit down and say I'm one of the biggest, one of the strongest, one of the most dangerous punchers in boxing history. Not many people can say that. So for all you people who are goofing and clowning on Wilder, I want you guys to know that just those things that I mentioned alone about Deontay Wilder, he's already had a winning career. He's already had a successful career and a career that a lot of people would dream of. But obviously, as far as impact, I'm going to go at a 7. Breezy, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
I mean, I don't really think there's a true impact. I mean, if you have either way, you still got a power puncher you got to deal with. So Joshua, whether it's Wilder or Jane, you still got to get in there with somebody that hit hard as hell. So it's like I really don't think it's no impact. And we expected Dubois to look a certain way. We expected Dubois to come out with a certain result. I mean, and this is not me knocking any fighter or any heavyweight, but whether it was Wilder that won, Jane that won, if you still get in the ring with them, you still gotta watch out for that power. So I don't really think there's no big significance change to this, honestly.
You're giving it a 0 for impact?
I don't think the impact changes.
Dang. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Last but not least, stakes. Are there any stakes to this? Were there any high stakes to this fight? I'm gonna say this: as far as both of their careers, yes. I mean, whoever lost, you might as well just put them in retirement already. If Zhang lost, I don't think retirement would have been as big as an effect. And I'm gonna say this: the reason why I don't believe that is because I think Zhang would have had one more fight to prove himself. Because Deontay Wilder had that gruesome and that exhausting trilogy with Deontay Wilder, because he had that loss to Joseph Parker, and the only win he had between that was Robert Helenius. We needed to see Deontay Wilder get a win. And this was a must win for Deontay Wilder, and it didn't happen. With Zhang, if he lost this fight, he would have been added to heavyweight title picture, but there would have been a slim chance he could get back in it. Wilder still has the chance to get one big money fight, whether that's with Anthony Joshua, whether that's to have one more fight before he rises into the sunset, you know. But as far as stakes, individually, there were some high stakes. But as far as like the boxing community, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, dude, that gets another 6 in my book. You know what I'm saying? As far as stakes, there wasn't no title on the line. You know, you guys took over the main event, which if anybody wanted to use that to kind of heighten the stakes, I understand. But overall, man, I give it a 6. And the individual stakes really bumped that up because I do feel like this was technically a must win for both guys. Definitely Wilder. I feel like Zhang definitely needed this win after losing to Joseph Parker. But yeah, no, I got to give it a 6. What's your grade, Breezy, as far as stakes?
Steaks, I mean, I give it about 8. I mean, stakes is high. I mean, now people talking about Jang and Joshua, Usyk and Jang, Joshua and Usyk again. So I give it about 8.
When you really do the math, so all that added up, put it this way, was a 22. You divide 22 by 40. This fight is our lowest rated fight. It is a 5.5, Breezy. Disappointing. I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's very disappointing. We're not happy about it. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as the event was pretty fun. We're not gonna go and grade the whole event. Obviously, that's gonna take us hours, but we're not gonna do that. But the event was all right. Overall, though, I don't think this lived up to the hype that it was supposed to get. And I'm hoping that they talked about doing another matchroom versus Queensberry. I'm hoping that the next one is going to be a lot more exciting. So I do want to say before we end this video, before we wrap it up, shout out to Nick Ball for getting his win against Ray Ford. Shout out to Daniel Dubois for defeating Hrgovic. In my opinion, that was an upset. Shout out to Bivol for retaining his belts with a 6th-round stoppage. So overall, shout out to those guys. Shout out to Shiraz for getting his win. But I don't think this event lived up to the hype. Congratulations to Queensberry Boxing. And by the way, they got $3 million for winning that event. $3 million, which, I mean, to their eyes is not a lot, but to us, that's a lot. Here's what I would like to see. For the events, instead of giving it to the company and the promotions, what you should do is each promotion should have a charity, and the winner that $3 million goes to the charity, because I believe that would do a lot. And I believe that would do a lot for this world. That's what I would like to see, is both promotions have a charity and have them fight for those types of charities. But with that being said, man, Breezy's a little too sad to wrap this up, so I think I'm gonna do it. My guy Breezy, he don't look too happy today. I'm not happy, but let me wrap this up before we go down a depressing black hole. Make sure y'all tune into the Puncher's Point. If there's one thing to keep you happy, it's definitely the Puncher's Point. You know what I'm saying? After this disappointing fight, after this disappointing loss from Deontay Wilder, I do want to say you guys should definitely tune into the Puncher's Point, because we try to keep it as positive as possible. We try to be as happy as possible, as excited as possible, and we try to give you guys the best content we possibly can. So with that being said, make sure y'all tell your friends, make sure you tell your family, make sure you tell strangers, make sure you tell them all to stay on point with the Puncher's Point.